Hey class, here's the math video for your math assignment on May 1st. So here are the supplies that you need for today's lesson. You are going to need all your fraction bar tiles. So you need your 1/2, you need your 1/2, you need your 1/3, you need your 1/4, you do not need your 1/5, you need your 1/6, and finally your 1/8. So you do not need your 1/5, your 1/10, or your 1/12. So you need those supplies. You can just grab your whole bag and then sort them out. That's what I did. The other thing that you need is the week 2, day 1 practice page. It does say May 1st on it. And then on the other side, it says week 2, day 2 practice page. And we are going to do some of these problems together, and then you will do some of them by yourself on both sides of the page. So today we are working with what we call equivalent fractions. And an equivalent fraction are two fractions, so one here and one here, and they represent the same part of a whole. They represent the same part of a whole. So I like to think of it as equal because the word equivalent sounds a lot like equal. They equal the same amount. So let me give you an example. Today we're going to be using our bar fractions a lot. So make sure that you have them in a place where you can slide them around pretty easily and use them to help you with your work. One example of two equivalent fractions that I think a lot of people, this is probably a really popular one, is 1/2. 1/2, this bar fraction is equivalent, or it's the same size as 2 1/4. I want you to get your bar fractions and build this with me. Notice, 1/2 is exactly the same size as 2 1/4. So here's how we would write that. We would say that 1/2 is equivalent to, or it's the same size as, 2/4. 1/2 is equal to 2/4. I'm going to ask you to pause the video in just a second, and using your fraction tiles, I want you to see if you can come up with any other sort of equivalent fractions. Just play around, see. Is 1/2 and 2/3, is that equivalent? I wonder how many eighths could be equivalent to 1/2. Play around with it a little bit, and then we will come back and work on this page. All right, friends, so you should have taken a little bit of time to play around with your fraction tiles and to see if you could make equivalent fractions. Now, we're gonna work together on 4 of these problems, and then you're gonna do the other 4 on your own. And I wanna start with this problem here. It says 1/2 is equivalent to blank eighths. And that was a one that I challenged you to do on your own. So when we are building these, we're gonna build all of these problems using our fraction tiles. I really suggest that you get maybe two books, or find a corner someplace, because it'll help keep your fraction tiles nice and straight. So they've told me that I have 1/2, and I need to find how many eighths are equivalent to it. So I'm just gonna grab eighths, and I'm gonna start lining them up until I find out how many eighths are equivalent to 1/2. Make sure it's nice and straight. Perfect, it's equivalent. 1, 2, 3, 4 eighths is equivalent to 1/2. 1/2, 4 eighths. Let's do this one. Now, if I have 2/4, how many eighths is that going to be? Do the same process. You just get your fraction tiles, make sure they're straight. All right, now I have 1 2/4. How many eighths is equivalent to 2/4? 1, 2, 3, 4. 2/4 is equivalent to 4/8. Hey, wait a second. 1/2 is equivalent to 4/8. 2/4 is equivalent to 4/8. Friends, make a prediction. Do you think that 1/2 will be equivalent to 4/8 and to 2/4? It will. We found a triple equivalent fraction. 2/4 is equivalent to 4/8 is equivalent to 1/2. Wonderful. All right, we've got 2 more that we're going to do together, and then I'll let you do some on your own. Get your tiles, get ready to build 2/6. 1, 2/6. Now, what else do I know about this problem? I need to find one piece that's going to be equivalent to these 2/6. One what? So I'm just going to try one of each of my tiles to see one what is equivalent to 2/6. Is 1/2? Nope, too much. 1/4? Closer, not quite. What about 1/8? No, that's way too small. 1/3? Yes, 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6. 1/3 is equal to 2/6. Last one, we're gonna do 6/8. So get all those little 8s lined up and make sure that you try to keep them nice and straight. We don't want anything to get out of line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6/8. There we go. 6/8 is equivalent to how many fourths? Let me get my fourths. 1, 2. What's it going to be, friends? 3. 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8. You are going to take your time. You're going to use your fraction tiles to finish these last 4 problems. And when you are ready, you can continue on in this video and we'll do the back side together. All right, let's get to work on the back side of this worksheet. So what we are going to be doing is still finding the missing number in a pair of equivalent fractions. We still want to find what goes in the blank. But what you've probably noticed is look at some of the denominators in these problems. Now we do have fraction tiles that go up to 12, but do we have fraction tiles that are 16ths or 18ths or 28ths? No, we don't. So what I'm going to teach you here is how to find equivalent fractions without using fraction tiles. They can be helpful for checking, but for these problems, we're going to use a different strategy. So let's look at this first one together. We have 2/4 is equivalent to a certain number of 12ths. And what the question we want to ask ourselves to fill in this missing number is 4 times what equals 12? This is really asking you to have your multiplication and division facts memorized. You should be telling yourself that 4 times 3 is equal to 12. Whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So we do the same thing. We say 2 times 3 is going to give us this number that goes on top. 2 times 3 equals 6. 2/4 is equivalent to 6/12. And I know that one off the top of my head, and that is correct. So whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. Let's practice it again here. 1/4 is equivalent to how many 16ths? What question do we ask ourselves? 4 times what gives me 16? 4 times 4 gives me 16. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So if I multiplied the bottom by 4, I multiply the top by 4. So this problem turns into 1 times 4 equals 4. 1/4 is equivalent to 4/16. This one's gonna be a little bit different, so I'm just gonna do this one for you. You could use your fraction tiles to help you check. It's asking us 2/4 is equivalent to 1 what? This time we don't have two denominators, we have two numerators. When we have two numerators, we say 2 divided by what gives me 1. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. Whatever we do to the top, we do to the bottom. So we say 4 divided by 2 equals 2. And we can check this one with our tiles. And we know that 2/4 is equivalent to 1/2. We proved that earlier. I believe that's the only one that you'll see like this where you have to find the denominator. So if that one was tricky, don't worry about it. Let's do this last one together before you get started on your own. We ask ourselves, 4 times what equals 28? 4 times 7 equals 28. So whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. We multiplied the bottom times 7 to get 28. So we multiply the top times 7. 1 times 7 equals 7. 1/4 is equal to 7/28. And friends, I really like this strategy because when you're using equivalent fractions, it doesn't matter how big your denominator is, right? You don't have to be reliant on fraction tiles. You can follow a math strategy and you can get the right answer. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 left to do on your own. You're doing a great job. We're gonna work on this one more day. So if you're not quite feeling confident on it yet, don't worry. We'll work on it next time we get together. Keep working hard. Go Dolphins.